Hi everyone, and this is the model that we're going to be using in this class. There are three preparations, soon to be dies. Number 9, number 15, and number 12. Number 12 is going to be an inlay, a crown on number 9, and a crown on number 15. So at first, when we get our model, we're going to get it like this. As you can see, it's freshly poured. On the underside, it's not very smooth. It's got to be flat. And the sides are a little bit rough. So the next thing we have to do with this is trim it, and we're going to be using the model trimmer to do it. Now, our measurements should be not too high. We don't want our dies to be too long because they move from side to side if they're too long. So what we have to do is we have to make sure we know the thickness of what we have to do, of how much we have to trim away from the bottom. Generally, I like to use 1 centimeter, which is 10 millimeters right here. So what we do is we measure it from the bottom of the scallop here of the gingiva or gums, and we're going to measure from here down 1 centimeter. So if we take a look here, 1 centimeter would end right in that spot there. So we would measure it carefully right about here. Okay. So then we can draw the line at our little mark right about there. If you want to, you can actually make it a little bit neater. We can scrape it away to make it a bit neater. We can remeasure it. And that's about 1 centimeter right there. If it's a little less or a tiny bit more, it doesn't really make much of a difference. We just want to make sure that this distance here is not too long. 1 centimeter is about right. So we can do the same things here on the posterior section. Can measure it here. Can put a little mark there. Can do it here. Put a little mark there. And then if you like, you can actually draw a line and connect the dots. And this will allow you to more or less give you the right distance. So I measured here, I measured here, I measured here. There, and a little bit here. So now we're going to trim it around here, make it neater. We don't have to trim too much. This distance here, what we have is pretty good, so we just want to make sure that when we trim the front part here, this is obviously way too long here. So what you can do, if you want to make sure, you can measure it here, which is about 1.75 centimeters or so, and then we can measure it from here, the outside of the incisor, to about 1.75 centimeters, and that's about 17 millimeters or so. So if we measure 17 millimeters from here, that's going to be about there. It's about the halfway mark between 1.5 and 2. Then we can make a line there, and we can continue this horseshoe from here and connect it with this line, and then make your horseshoe coming from this area here. So it's going to look like that. That way we can remove this area and make this horseshoe kind of an even thickness without thinning it out too much. If we thin it out too much, the horseshoe will break. So what we wanna, this is going to be what our final product will be. So our horseshoe will be like this. Okay. After we trim it, it's going to literally look like a horseshoe. And then we're going to drill little holes for these pins. And then I'll show you how to decide where to put those holes. So let's go ahead and trim the models. This is a model trimmer. This is what we use to trim the models. There's a this particular model has a little shield so that the material doesn't go back in your face and hurt your eyes. Of course, you will want to wear the proper PPE, personal protective equipment, which will consist of sometimes gloves, but always goggles. If we take a look at it here, this is the table. It's adjustable to different angles. The model goes on here to stabilize the model while we are trimming. This is the blade. This spins around very fast. We have to be very careful so that we do not grind our fingers, okay? If we look back here, most model trimmers have the switch back here. This is the switch. When we turn this on, the blade starts spinning. This little valve here adjusts the water. You can adjust more or less water. So the water here is important not to put too much, because then it will flood the machine. So we need to put just enough to wet the model so that we don't create dust. Okay, so let's let it stop spinning. This little hose is the hose that releases the water from the trimmer, and as you can see, the water will be going into there. It's gonna come out through here, and all the slurry, the grindings from the stone will also come out here with the water. Every once in a while we have to open this machine up to the side here. If that plug comes out, you can remove all the debris that gets accumulated in there and clean it. The machine also comes with a little shower head thing, sort of like the ones you have on the kitchen sink, and you can actually clean up everything nice and neat. You can clean up your sink and everything, so you leave everything nice and clean every time you finish. And this is our model. Okay. Our first cut on this model will be the bottom portion. You see how it's a little bit not flat, so it's a little bumpy, so we're gonna need to take that flat, and we're going to have to cut it down to this line that we marked before. Okay, so first things first, let's go over the angles and how to hold the model. First thing is we're gonna hold the model against the blade like this, but do not use your weight behind your body to press the model to the trimmer, because what happens if you slip, your fingers will go right into the blade, and we don't want it to have problems hurting your fingers. Okay, so the way we need to do it is we need to use the model trimmer as a brace, and we use our thumbs to press the model against the blade. Okay, so this is our first cut on the very bottom of the model. So let's turn it on. We brace our fingers. Just gently hold the model against the blade, and then we press down. And then we gently press it until we see the cut reach the line that we drawn. So we slowly press it. Drag it back and forth, and we double check. We have it here. We are almost down there. So now we have to press it a little bit more towards the front end, so that we don't cut so much from the back, but cut a little bit more from the front. Move it around a little bit, just to make sure the model's flat, and we gently remove it and double check. We see that we're right on the line here, we're almost on the line there, and we're almost on the line here. So let's do it a little bit more. Now we're going to have to press a little bit more on this side, because here we reached the line already. So double check again. We're almost there, just a little bit more. Okay, so now we're there. Now we can do a little tiny bit on the sides. Just a gentle touch, because there's so little here. We just want to take away the extra stone there. So we're good. We can shorten this a little bit to make sure that it will fit into our model base. I'll bring a model base to show you. This is the model base. So this should fit comfortably in here. So we have our space is a little bit too small. We want to give it a little bit more space in the back. So we're going to shorten the model from the back. So we shortened it a little bit. So now we're going to round this area just to make it neater. Okay, so that's our first cut, and our second cut is on the side, and then we're gonna have to do the horseshoe right here. Just kind of cut a little bit more out of the horseshoe. Okay, so let's turn this off, and now we're gonna have to rinse this down. Once this is rinsed, all the extra stone dust and everything, the slurry, will be washed away. If you don't do that and dries on it, it's going to be difficult to take these off. This is the router. This is what we're going to use to cut the excess material from here, from this area. Now the router has a spinning head here. It has an empty space here, which is the vacuum is connected to, and then the vacuum is usually under the bench. So the switches normally are in the back, sometimes on the side. This one happened to have it in the back. So first thing we have to turn on is the vacuum, and then we will turn on the machine. Okay? So it's spinning in a counterclockwise direction. So the best way to cut it is to go against the way it's spinning. So it's spinning this way. So the best way to go is start here and go around in a clockwise direction. If the drill is spinning counterclockwise, then we will go in a clockwise direction on the arch. Check it. You see how everything gets sucked in? There's no dust. We just follow the lines. We go in a very smooth movement, no jerky movement. And take a look at this. It's exactly on the line. Now if we want to, we can go further down and kind of smooth these areas and round off these little areas so when we pour the base it doesn't get locked in. just like this. Now it's all trimmed. It's nice and flat. We can put it down on the desk, kind of push it back and forth, make sure it doesn't rock this way. The flatter it is, the more stable it will be on the base. So now let's trim up the counter model or the opposing model. Okay, so here we go again. Now here we are just going to barely flatten it. You don't want to go too deep because then you're going to end up making holes in these deeper areas here. So we're just going to go gently, just make sure it gets just flat, and then we're going to do the sides. So we do it little by little, you see? We're almost there. Just have this area and that area. Incidentally, it's probably better if we wet the model if it's this dry, because that way the slurry won't stick to it. Okay, so let's do a little bit more. Gotta stop now because we trimmed a little bit, so there's a little bit of a hole there. It won't really matter too much. We're gonna maybe put some wax in there to fill the hole. It's an opposing model, so as long as we didn't destroy the teeth or we didn't mess up the teeth, we should be okay. Okay, so now we kind of trim the sides a little bit just to make it nice and neat. So we wash it again, and that's all we need. Now we're just going to dry off the model and continue with our work.